in my head, I don't know if it was that show Scandal. Maybe it was where the PR person became their fixer, right? Something
Yeah.
bad happened at a party
Uh-huh.
and, you sat on the copy machine and made 500 copies of your butt and you need to spin it and make the
Uh-huh.
world not know it or bad news came out. That's how I think of a PR person. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, joined today by Gary Voigt, per usual. I thought I was flying solo today, so I was really excited because I thought Gary was out of town, and so it was just going to be me, and then this is all going to be me, and I don't have to talk to this dork, but he's here. Hi, Gary.
Don't worry, I'll just, be in the background as usual. Won't say much.
Perfect. More importantly, we are joined by Margaret McNab, the principal of Mcnab Company, which is a strategic communications firm. Does that sound right? Is that a good way
That's
of
right.
describing y'all?
Sure is.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Glad to be
So
here.
you have been doing this a little while. You've been doing this for 20 years. Is that ish, give or take?
Yes. I have been in business for 20 years, basically on and off as a freelancer and or with a few stints in the traditional workforce as well, but all in the field with PR and communications.
So PR and okay, so I am ignorant. So don't say anything, Gary. I get confused between marketing, PR, and communications. What is
Uh-huh.
the difference?
Oh, well, you know what? There was a time when I stopped referring to myself as PR, communications, marketing, anything like that, and just called myself a growth strategist. And in fact, that was probably the most, the umbrella that I uh, flew under for the longest time. And mainly it was because it kind of captures all of that, right? There is a little bit of marketing. When you're doing communications, you are basically helping companies figure out how to talk about the business that they're operating, how to talk about, their goals, their positioning, what makes them different, what they want their community, their customers to understand. And basically, once you get into that, I mean, you are talking about marketing. You're talking about, you're already in sales, you're in, you're developing business. PR is specifically when you are doing outreach to media, is what I would say on that one,
Okay.
who specifically the audience is for. But generally, I would say that all of that is kind of it's all pretty well tied together. But I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of speaking.
Okay, fair enough. So it's funny. In my head, I don't know if it was that show Scandal. Maybe it was where the PR person became their fixer, right? Something
Yeah.
bad happened at a party
Uh-huh.
and, you sat on the copy machine and made 500 copies of your butt and you need to spin it and make the
Uh-huh.
world not know it or bad news came out. That's how I think of a PR person, like
Uh-huh.
super sleuth kind of. Now, maybe that's TV. Maybe I'm wrong here, but it's funny. That's in my head. That's what I think of.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different use cases or opportunities when a communications person comes in and extra handy. Some of it is when you got yourself into a pickle and don't know how to talk yourself out of it. PR people are usually we're trained to figure out, okay, let's everybody take a deep breath here and figure out what we're going to do for the situation. More often than not, right? But yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Spin, I'm never crazy about that as as a word or a term or thinking about that and in the, as part of my work. But I think it is more just understanding what is going on, who all the different audiences are, how they're receiving whatever event has occurred. And then what do you do to either kind of protect your reputation or take advantage of an opportunity when, like, well, you put yourself out there, right? But usually I would say you're more doing like announcements, helping, companies take everything, all the work that they've done, right? To build a product or to, launch a year or to develop a company or whatever. And then you're finally the person who has the perspective and you're one step, outside of that whole process. You can say, okay, so here's how we can communicate this to the outside world. So they're going to get excited about your product or about the new feature you're rolling out or about the company that you're announcing. Because sometimes when we have been, spent a year and a half developing something and just thinking so specifically about it, you lose perspective on, what your audience actually needs to hear. And you want to just overwhelm them with everything, right? Just like, I've been thinking about this for 18 months and now I'm going to tell you everything. And so a PR person is the one who's going to be like, okay, hold up. Let's do this, in a systematic way so that people can hear you and get as excited as you are and also follow the story and build and stay engaged.
When should a company, and I'm thinking of startup or new company or fledgling, however you want to look at it, what stage
Okay.
in company should you be doing PR? Not marketing, that's a whole different thing, but just PR. I've got a new product, a new feature. My company never does PR. We launch a new client, they go live. We might do a LinkedIn post, right? Maybe. We will eventually do a case study. But it's like, it's not in our lexicon to go PR. When should a company start thinking about that?
Well, of course, I would say the earlier the better. And I guess it would just, to me, that would depend on how strong the channels that you have that you're working with right now, how strong those are and where your audience is and, who you want to reach. PR is a great way to reach a wide audience or even a more niche audience. So part of the, where the marketing versus communications thing comes up for me is with marketing, you're building your audience, right? All that effort goes into building that. With PR and communication, you are positioning your message with a publication or an outlet or another. It could even be like another influential social media group or something like that, or a networking group to do a talk, whatever. You're positioning your message in front of an audience that somebody else has built, right? For example,
how do you build up that audience?
Well, so that's the marketing question,
I'm
right?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking to myself, it's like when I launch a product, I've got a new gizmo that I'm wanting to get out. And let's say I have an established business. Let's take the new company out for a second. I don't have media relations. I don't have a press corps that's, Microsoft says, hey, we're creating a new computer. Let's call The Verge. Let's call CNET. Let's call New York Times and send them review units and do their thing, right? That's a big boy company, but you're small. How do you start that process?
I mean, you can do it. Anybody can do it on their own. I mean, it just takes, just kind of takes an understanding of the process and who are the writers that you want to get in front of. Like you said, if you want to get in front of CNET or if you want to get in the New York Times, then it starts with just doing the research of who are the writers that cover the subject matter or would be interested in your story. Right. And then, crafting a message to them, reaching out, saying, here's, something that we've been working on that we're really excited about. Here's why it might be interesting to you and to your audience. And would you be interested in covering? And if you don't hear from them, then you're in the PR business. And if you do, then you got to win. I love when it comes to, getting coverage or really just anything in sales, anything like that. I love a yes. My second favorite is a no. And just dead silence or no response at all is kind of or a maybe is what I'm,
That's the standard.
Right. That's the standard.
Does it make sense? Does it make sense to hire a company like yours because you know the writers, you have a relationship with the writers, and you sending that email saying, hey, this cool thing has just been made. You should write about it. Do they listen to someone like you more, or is it not? In today's world is so different, which I'll ask about in a minute. But what would you? Is there that big of an advantage for hiring?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to hire somebody to do to help you with a big announcement, or if you're rolling out a major product, something that you have really high expectations for, and you want to reach a lot of people and get some serious buzz going, then hiring a PR person who has the relationships with the publications that you want to get in, yes, that would be a great bet, right? You're probably going to pay a pretty penny to work with that person. However, if they have the, access or the relationships with those kind of folks, it may be worth it to you. Does it? So that is to say that not every PR company is going to have every relationship with you want, right? So if you've got a hardcore tech product, you don't want to hire somebody who's got, a Rolodex of tourism PR that they've done, right? So you want to pay attention to, it's not just like, I have relationships with the media, right? It's which one, right? So that's important.
So you should be
I
asking
mean,
that. Those
yeah,
are
you should
specific
ask that.
questions that I should ask when I'm hiring a
Yes.
company. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Or I think that you can also, it's helpful to have somebody dedicated to this task. And in that case, it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody who has all the relationship that you need out of the gate, right? If you don't have the budget to pay for a big PR firm who's, got the phone ready and the calls to make. But it is helpful to have somebody who is dedicated to working your project and to doing the research, building the relationship, following up. There's quite a bit of work that goes into it. It doesn't mean that you can't do it for yourself. There is an art to it and a lot of it has to do with when we started out, not telling everybody everything and all on your first message, overwhelming folks with content, right? It's about getting the right message that gets people excited and then building from there. So founders and marketing teams, you can do that internally. Earned media is a great way to get a lot of eyes on your product if it's ready. You don't want to start, pushing too hard if you're, before your product is ready. But there's a few different ways to go about it. And a lot of it just has to do with what are your goals and where do you want to build relationships and what kind of audience do you want to get in front of. I was just going to launch off into where my career started, which was in the music industry. And so that's really where I learned how to, it's not, at that point, I wasn't working with tech CEOs or, business leaders. I was working with musicians, independent musicians and record label, and helping them get in front of the writers that they wanted to cover their album or to promote their upcoming show in a town, right? In that case, I'm speaking on behalf of the musicians, on behalf of the writers, and who appreciate having somebody else to pick up the phone for them because it is hard to promote yourself, right?
So I'm sure you didn't have to make any PR things about musicians doing something weird or having to get them out of the fire. That never happened.
Oh yeah,
Music.
no way.
No
They're
spin
very
for musicians.
reliable.
No wrecked
Yes.
hotel
Yeah.
rooms. Yes.
No, nothing.
Yes.
They
I know
always
that
were.
band members, top tier, high quality, very relatable and easy to deal with people. Yeah. We've had some
Superheroes,
clients that
most
were
cases.
in the music world, and that's a tough group, man. They're artists, right? Just in their very nature, they're artists, and they are busy or they just don't want to talk to you. It could be either. You don't know. We had the toughest time. One of our clients focused on musicians, and getting them to respond to you took an act of God. So yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? That made for the transition to working with tech CEOs. I mean, that was pretty seamless in a way for me because it's okay. I'm used to speaking, for somebody's baby. I'm used to taking the reins and saying, okay, I hear all that, and I'm excited about this too. Let me pick up the phone. Let me figure out what is the best way to get you top of mind with the publications. Let me help you figure out how to promote your show and Lord knows where, Utah, But then when it came to working with CEOs and really just everybody from that point on, it's okay. This is somebody who is really passionate, cares a lot, big personalities usually, and I tend to.
All right, Gary, you're supposed to be talking now.
Yeah, my question was, it seems like companies now, a lot of startups and small companies, if they're selling a product, their goal for marketing and PR is just they want to either go viral and get as many people as possible interested in their product, or they want some stepping stone, something like Shark Tank, but maybe, not everybody's going to get on Shark Tank, but they want a stepping stone into that big audience and they want it as soon as possible. So the other part of this question is a lot of smaller companies like that don't have the foresight to think of hiring a marketing team and then an add-on of a PR person that has kind of experience in that, where the marketing team and PR person can work together and try to make that happen. Although, going viral, so to speak, nowadays it's way too random to be predictable, but at least there's a formula up to a point that you could try to get the most traction for them. So what type of companies do you feel deserve to have a PR person on top of the marketing team, working with the marketing team to help promote their product? Is it mainly people selling products, or is it companies offering services?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think, to me, it just comes down to the overall marketing mix. If going viral, that's not something that necessarily happens overnight. And I can't say that, designing campaigns like that is really anything that I have a whole lot of experience with. I have usually worked with
No, but I'm just
teams.
saying that's, for instance, that's just what companies think of when they think of like great marketing.
Big Pixel builds world-class custom software and amazing apps. Our team of pros puts passion into every one of our projects. Our design-infused development leans heavily on delivering a great experience for our clients and their clients. From startups to enterprises, we can help craft your ideas into real-world products that help your business do better business.
I feel like the PR approach on top of a marketing team can also benefit a small company that has a story to tell rather than just a product to sell. Like the storytelling part of marketing, it's hit or miss on social media and LinkedIn and stuff. You put it out there, but you don't know if everybody's going to read it. Seems like a PR person kind of has a better approach to segmenting that story into something that evolves into gaining more interest. And especially by putting it in the right channels at the right time to help grab an audience and gain interest in that company's story. Is that something that you do often for these tech companies? Try to create a story around the company itself rather than just promote their services?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, is that it's not a one-off thing, that PR is it's a long play, right? It is story building. And also the real benefit of it is getting your message into somebody else's feed. So there's only so much that you can tell people that I'm great, but having other reputable sources say, these guys are great. They're really doing something interesting. They've got an interesting story that we've picked up and we are developing. They've got something that you're going to want to pay attention to. That's like the real value.
I am fascinated. You have been doing this for almost 20 years. That is a very nice long period of time. And I want to know what has changed the most in those 20 years in your world.
The whole world has changed in that time, I would say.
So you can't say everything. That's cheating.
Yeah, I would say that in those early days, working in music, the thing that was interesting and some big lessons that came with that was I started that work at the time when the music industry was evolving and changing quite drastically, right? So at that point, we were transitioning from physical to digital distribution, for one thing, right? So I was in college when we were all, Napster had its heyday, and then after that, then we
Napster,
were all
LimeWire, and iTunes.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yikes, right? But that's when there was a big change, big disruption in the industry. And then, you fall into the MySpace. I've done some time on MySpace. I had fun on MySpace, I'm not gonna lie. And so it was when, I felt like the pie was shrinking. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of, competition for just a lot of disruption, like I said. So that was on the music side. And then likewise on the media side, the same thing was happening. So we're going from physical distribution of newspapers and magazines to digital distribution. So everything is going, online. So it would be, an average week at that point, I would be doing tour press for a band and they're like, they're going to LA and, hit up work those channels. And we'd be getting emails, just droves of layoffs. So there were fewer and fewer writers who were covering music, and just everything was changing. My real point is that when people, you never know who somebody is or what they've done just because of whatever, company or title they're flying under at some moment. Somebody may be self-employed, and usually those are the ones who it's like, oh, I don't need to know them. Or, at some, you're like, I'm here to meet the decision makers, but you never.
Yeah, but if you put
No, it gets in the way of
self-employed on your name
curiosity.
tag, you deserve it.
But I just disagree. I disagree.
Put the name of your company. Don't just put
What if you don't have a
self-employed. But
company?
you got a name that you go, well, then it's your name, LLC, or right? I don't know.
Even if it
All
is
right, enough with the
your
name
name,
tags.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
it gets in the way of curiosity. That's my
Gary,
whole
see,
point.
he's wins, and that's fair.
Connection.
All right, Gary, I'm
Okay.
going to hijack you here for a second.
Yes.
I'm going to hijack. Instead of our normal final question, I have a different one.
Yeah.
Normally, we ask the three things you would say. I'm gonna throw you on your toes. If I am
no.
a new company, give me the top three things I should do for PR and communications early on.
Yeah. Gosh,
Most
early
effective
on.
thing.
Yeah, I think it is always good to get an outside, fresh perspective on what it is that you think is the most brilliant. For example, I'll give you again, back in the music days, you come in at the very tail end and somebody's got their album artwork and it's just like, oh, cringe. But they're just totally, they're dead set, love it. Their cousin made it and they love it. And, it's the kind of thing that just gets lost in the pile. Or the name of the band has a swear word in it. And that just makes it harder. So getting an outside voice, getting some fresh perspective to say, okay, here's all the stuff this is what I'm in love with. I love my ideas. It is good to have somebody who can just say, all right, yeah, look, we can work with this, but I'm going to have to push back a little bit and say, I don't know so much that this is the headline of your story, that this is what you lead with. This angle is really what's got me interested. I think that's your first step, is just to get somebody in who's outside of your bubble to give you some feedback and a real honest opinion about all the ideas that you're in love with. Doesn't mean that you have to change them, but that it is very good to get that perspective. After that, I would say, okay, I've got a launch, a big announcement coming up. Where do I want this to appear? Who's writing about, similar technologies? Who cares about this trend? Who cares about the tech field or whatever it is that I'm in? Who has the audience that I want to get in front of? Build that list. You start writing down. Oh no, I read this great article. Write the author's name down. Write the writer's name down. Follow them on X. Follow them on Instagram, wherever it is. Read the rest of their articles. That's another good place to start. You could even reach out and say, hey, I love that article that you wrote. It's kind of similar to something that I've got cooking up, but I'd love to, let you know about it when we're closer to launching it. With two things, right? So start building and figuring out who you want to get in front of. And then, finally, I think the other pitfall that I see folks, stumble into is back at the beginning, right? Is I'm in love with my whole story. We've got all this stuff and here's the whole thing and everybody that's worked on this. And there's this thing that's interesting, and this thing that's interesting, and this thing that's interesting, and I'm going to jam it all into one press release and then get it out there. And then you blew every single one of your stories, right? This is about building your story, not just getting all the information out at one time, because that's one moment in time. And you got the next, year and a half to continue developing this project, your product or your company, or however much longer you want to keep pushing it out. And so then after that point, you say the first thing that's exciting is, hey, we exist. Here's what we do. And here's what's unique about us. And here's why you should care. Great. So you get some, handful of articles written. And then the next one, you sent to just one publication. And you're like, here's what's really cool about this one particular thing, this feature that we built with, so-and-so who's really a big name in the field. And that's its own story. So the other where I'm getting to is then just map out, what is the story that you're building, not just what is, what are we all going to blow in the first press release right out of the gates, because building momentum is what you want to try to do, not just was great, now what? PR can help keep that in front of a whole lot of audiences. And then your marketing team is going to be, baseline building that. And then you can engineer with PR some big moments to draw in some outside audiences and have somebody else say how awesome you are, aside from your awesome marketing people.
Yeah, I think that third point is super important. It's like the everything, everywhere, all at once. Like the moment in time analogy, and then the building is definitely something I think more companies need to think about. Some companies do it extremely well, and then there's other companies that are just trying to give you 100 bullet points of how awesome they are, and repeating that same 100 bullet points just over and over to the point where it's so monotonous. You even forgot the company. You just know when you see that, you scroll past, or you see that, you just delete email. So
yeah, if I see just like a big monster email in my, I'm not even going to read it. That's just going to overwhelm me. I'm like, I love these guys. And I don't know what they want or what the point is or what the deal is.
Now, if anybody wants to reach out, learn more about you, your business, where can they get a hold of you?
LinkedIn. You can find me Margaret McNab on LinkedIn. I think I'm like the only one. And then also my company is on LinkedIn, Mcnab Company.
Hi, I'm Christy Pronto, Content Marketing Director here at Big Pixel. Thank you for listening to this episode of the BizDev Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email, hello@thebigpixel.net. The BizDev Podcast is produced and presented by Big Pixel. See you next week. Until then, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and LinkedIn.